Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you on Wednesday, the 6th of May. Bollywood actor Salman Khan gets 5 years imprisonment in hit-and-run case. Afghan court sentences 4 people to death for mob lynching of blasphemy accused women. And children in Quake-Ravaged Nepal face measles risk, says Unicef. And now for all the details. An Indian court on Wednesday sentenced Bollywood actor Salman Khan to 5 years imprisonment. He was found guilty of culpable homicide in a 2002 hit-and-run case. Khan was later granted interim bail for 2 days by Mumbai High Court.
After years of lingering trials, the law finally caught one of Bollywood's biggest superstars. A Mumbai court pronounced Salman Khan guilty, bringing an end to a 13-year-old case against him. The judge held that Khan was driving the car without a license and under the influence of alcohol. The court also rejected the driver's statement that he was the one behind the wheel of the SUV and not Khan during the time of accident.
जज साहब ने कहा कि सलमान खान आप गाड़ी चला रहे थे, आप ड्राइविंग सीट पे थे, आपने शराब पी रखी थी। तो ये दो चीजें जो थी और इनके ऊपर मैं आपको दोषी मानता हूँ कल्पेबल होमिसाइड नॉट अमाउंटिंग टू मर्डर का। 5 साल की सलमान खान को सजा हुई है। इससे जो है दोबारा सच की जीत हुई है, न्याय की जीत हुई है और एक मैसेज गया है कि जो लोग कानून को तोड़ते हैं कि आप कानून आपके ऊपर है और अगर आप कानून तोड़ेंगे तो आपको सजा मिलेगी।
The case dates back to 2002 when Khan in a drunken state overran a group of people sleeping on a sidewalk in Mumbai, killing a man and injuring 4 others. The verdict came as a shock for millions of fans who fondly call him bhai or brother.
बुरा बहुत लग रहा है उनके लिए, but fine, this is the law and we have to follow it and we are just waiting for Salman Khan कि वो कब वापस आए and we will seeing his latest movies.
I was hoping actually कि इतनी सजा ना हो, मैं कह रहा 1-2 साल की सजा हो जाएगी तो बहुत अच्छा हो जाएगा ऐसा मेरे को लग रहा था, but ठीक है 5 साल हुआ है. I'm feeling really very sad.
A shocked film fraternity said the verdict was unexpected.
It's a big loss to the industry, but let's not lose a hope. Let's not lose a heart. He will get the bail. I'm sure about it.
Hailing from a family of writers and actors, which has deep root connections in Bollywood, Khan is one of the most recognizable faces on the Indian celluloid. Khan has acted in more than 90 Hindi language films in his 27-year career so far. Despite having a flourishing charitable trust named Being Human, Khan has been a controversy's child off screen. The 49-year-old is also facing criminal cases under the Arms Act and the Wildlife Protection Act for poaching endangered black bucks in October 1998. Known as the most bankable Indian actors, he has over $40 million riding on him. His upcoming projects including Bajrangi Bhaijaan and Prem Ratan Dhan Payo now seem to be at stake, film analysts observe.
An Afghan court on Wednesday sentenced 4 men to death for mob killing of a blasphemy-accused woman. The trial court in capital Kabul also sentenced 8 other people to 16 years imprisonment, while 18 others were acquitted, citing lack of evidence. The sentence of the remaining 19 suspects will be announced next week. 27-year-old Farkhunda was beaten to death by a mob in March after a cleric accused her of burning pages of the Quran. 49 people, including some police officials, were arrested in the case, which was condemned by international community and women rights groups alike. Pakistan got its first solar power plant as a part of China's investment in the country. The move is a step by Nawaz Sharif government towards curbing power crisis in Pakistan before next parliamentary elections.
Taking the bilateral ties to one step ahead, Pakistan inaugurated its first solar power plant with the economic cooperation of China. Camels and horses pranced to traditional drums as Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif opened the Quaid-e-Azam Solar Power Park in eastern Bahawalpur on Tuesday. The event was also attended by Chinese officials. The project is said to be the latest example of the increasing close cooperation between the two neighbors and a step towards Prime Minister Sharif's electoral promise to end crippling power cuts in Pakistan.
हम तो अल्लाह के फजल करम से जिस दिन से हुकूमत में आए हैं, हमारा सिर्फ एक ही जो है वो असूल है, एक ही इरादा है, वो ये कि पाकिस्तान के अंधेरों को दूर करना है। इंशाअल्लाह पाकिस्तान में रोशनियों को वापस लेके आना है।
The desert plant currently produces 100 megawatt of power, which will be increased to 1000 megawatt by next year. The project, owned by Punjab province and built by a Chinese firm, took a year to build at a cost of $190 million. Pakistan has been facing a serious power crisis for years now. The country could only generate an average of 15,500 megawatt of power last year, about 3/4 of its requirement. The latest project, spread over 500 acres, is also being treated as a link in the ambitious China-Pakistan economic corridor, which was unveiled by Chinese President Xi Jinping.
Convicted war criminals should not be granted presidential clemency, acclaimed Bangladeshi academician Nazmul Ehsan Kalimullah has said. A report.
The trial proceedings in the International War Crimes Tribunal of Bangladesh are on track and it hasn't slowed down, as claimed by some people in the country, Professor Nazmul Ehsan Kalimullah said in capital Dhaka. He stated that the high number of accused facing trial at the tribunal could be a reason for the delay in delivering judgments. Professor Kalimullah, however, expressed confidence that all the perpetrators will eventually be punished. He further said the government should not allow war criminals to seek clemency.
In our constitution, there is a provision of presidential clemency. It's a standard sort of proviso, but an article. But I think that with reference to war crime perpetrators, it should not be used as a sort of means or handle for them so that they can get away with what they have done.
Out of the dozen found guilty, a number of them were sentenced in absentia as they had fled Bangladesh before the trial began. Kalimullah called on international community to help in extraditing the absconding criminals.
If the international community cooperates with our authorities, then none can evade. I mean, every suspect can be brought to justice. I mean, through deportation, they can be brought back and be put on the dock.
Bangladesh, then known as East Pakistan, fought civil war in 1971 to break away from West Pakistan. The 9-month period saw some 3 million people being killed and 200,000 women raped by Pakistan Army and its local collaborators like the Jamaat-e-Islami as they tried to crush the uprising. The ICT was formed in 2010 to try those who unleash mass genocide, rape, arson and other crimes against humanity when Bangladesh fought for its independence.
A radical Muslim group in Pakistan held funeral prayers for 2 gunmen who had opened fire outside an exhibition of Prophet Muhammad's caricatures in Texas on Sunday. The group defended the attack, calling it a task obligatory to Islam.
The Sunday killing of 2 gunmen by Texas police at the Dallas suburb of Garland sparked anger in Pakistan. Around 100 demonstrators gathered in Peshawar to hold funeral prayers for Nadir Sufi and Elton Simpson, who had opened fire at a conference center where cartoons of Prophet Muhammad were on display. The protesters hailed the duo as martyrs and called the exhibition a blasphemous act against Islam.
गुस्ताखाना खाकों के ये नुमाइश का जो इह्तिमाम था मुसलमानों के लिए नाकाबिल बर्दाश्त था, ख़तरनाक था, अलमिया था, बहुत नाकाबिल बर्दाश्त वाक़या था। तो जिन मुसलमानों ने इसको रोकने के लिए कोशिश की और इस कोशिश के सिलसिला में अपनी जानों का नजराना उन्होंने पेश किया, अपने सरों के अपने जानों की उन्होंने कुर्बानी दी, शहीद नामों से रिसालत कहलाए। तो हम उनको खिराज अक़ीदत पेश करने के लिए, उन्हें खिराज तहसीन पेश करने के लिए, उनका एक इस्लामी हक़ जनाजा अदा करने के लिए हमने ये इह्तिमाम किया।
Sufi and Simpson, both Muslims, were sharing an apartment in Phoenix. While Sufi was of Pakistani origin, Simpson had converted to Islam some years ago. The shooting incident comes as an echo of the attack on the Paris office of French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo against cartoons of Prophet Muhammad in January this year.
Nepal's deadly earthquake has impacted nearly 1.7 million children, the Unicef has said. The calamity-struck nation faces the next big challenge of providing shelters and medical care to the displaced apart from the massive rehabilitation.
The United Nations Children's Agency has tied up with the European Union to provide relief from the effects of the disaster. Humanitarian supplies of 80 metric tons are being airlifted to capital Kathmandu to meet the emergency needs of millions of children. The regional director of UNICEF for South Asia, Karen Hulshoff, said helping the children who've lost their houses, families, schools and healthcare centers was an uphill task.
We have to reach each one of the 1.7 million children. So these children, they need to be provided access to school again. So we will deliver, as UNICEF, school in a box. We will deliver more hospital tents everywhere where it's needed. Tarpaulins for people to sleep under, large amounts of tarpaulins. We have already had 4 cargo airplanes landed here in Kathmandu airport. Then all the medical kits, the hygiene kits, that's what we're going to do the first 3 months.
Over 500,000 children are being targeted in an emergency vaccination drive due to fear of a measles outbreak in the various camps that have sprung up since the disaster. Many believe the dangers would be aggravated by wet and muddy conditions which would prevail in the upcoming rainy season. Health workers said the Nepalese government is working in coordination with international agencies to provide the vaccinations.
Vaccinated children in tent settlements like this throughout Kathmandu Valley, but also in districts beyond. We are targeting 500,000 children under the age of 5 to be vaccinated against measles, because measles is a very contagious disease and it can spread quickly amongst children that are not in a great state of health.
In the aftermath of the April 25th massive earthquake, thousands of people have been forced to sleep in camp settlements, leaving particularly children vulnerable to communicable diseases. The United Nations has said 8 million of Nepal's 28 million population has been affected by the quake, with at least 2 million needing tents, water, food and medicines over the next 3 months. The death toll from the 7.8 magnitude earthquake has touched 7,557.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude, the top stories once again. Bollywood actor Salman Khan gets 5 years imprisonment in hit-and-run case. Afghan court sentences 4 people to death for mob lynching of blasphemy accused woman. And children in Quake-Ravaged Nepal face measles risk, says Unicef. Now viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.